In 1781, coincidental to Sir William Herschel's discovery of the planet Uranus, a momentous event took place, the advent of the nine-centered being. Centeredness is a structural aspect of evolution. Neanderthals were five-centered beings, like modern mammals, and so-called Cro-Magnon or Homo sapiens were seven-centered beings. We are nine-centered. We are a transitional form, Homo sapien intransitus. Human design is the knowledge of the mechanics of the nine-centered being, and this knowledge is the basis of the science of differentiation.
Such a fascination with all types of understanding of the human experience from a spiritual perspective, and I'm sure both of you guys have seen your fair share of people's interpretations about all types of different things. So what I wanted to ask specifically is if you were to introduce human design to people who have a curiosity in general for being able to better understand themselves, how would you describe it? Like, what would be your elevator pitch, so to speak, about human design?
Okay. So human design is not a belief system. It's not a religious system. It's not a cult. It's not even anything you have to believe in, right? I think you mentioned this before, Janae, with astrology. It's not something you really need to believe in. Human design is a synthesis. A synthesis, what is a synthesis? A synthesis is a combination of things that come together and become streamlined, right? Or, and work cohesively. It is a mechanism. So let me break it down as simplistic as possible.
Okay.
So it is a very logical system, which many will read about. It's very logical, and it breaks down your genetic imprint. So what is it a synthesis of? It's a synthesis of astrology, which we'll definitely talk about, because a lot of people were like, well, if you're talking, anyways, astrology, Kabbalah tree of life,
okay,
the Hindu chakra system, Chinese I Ching, quantum mechanics. Synthesize all those essential systems into one cohesive system, and it breaks you down at a quantum level and how your genetics operate. So, like, how is it genetically inclined? Well, I mean, if you look at Chinese I Ching, it's 64 hexagrams. In Chinese I Ching, there are 64 genetic codons in in your DNA.
Okay.
So that's what, gates, lines. There's a lot of jargon in human design, and it just takes time. Just like you've had to learn anything else, from astrology to your spirituality to down to how to drive, right? Yeah. With the manual that comes in with anything else that you might have purchased in store, it's going to come with a manual, new jargon, foreign jargon, which becomes an understanding over time.
Years ago, somebody asked me what I thought about astrology, and I said, well, prove it to me. There was nobody around that was going to prove that to me. And the reality is that all these years later, I end up in this situation in which I teach something that is based on astrological information, so I'm going to have to prove it to you. So let me do that, and let me give you a proof for astrology. First of all, I told you about the neutrinos, and the neutrinos are only made in stars. Our sun, by the way, is a star, and our sun produces nearly 70% of the neutrinos that we receive. the reality is that all around this wheel, we have an enormous star field everywhere, and all that star field is doing is it's streaming information towards us, neutrino information, traveling at near the speed of light at a density that's far beyond our ability to understand. All of that information streaming through, and when it's streaming through, imagine that it's all around the outside of this circle. It has to come through here. I told you about these crystals that are inside of us. Imagine what it's like. Imagine I have two crystals in my hands. Let's call them diamonds. And they're cut differently. That is, they have different facets, different shapes to them. And I take these two crystals and I put the same, exactly the same source of light through these two crystals. Because they're cut differently, what comes out is different. That's us. That's all of us. All of us have a slightly different cut to the crystals that are within us, and as we receive the same information, and we're all receiving the same information, we translate that information uniquely. Imagine what happens when the planet Mars gets in the way, and you've got this stream of information pouring through, and the planet Mars gets in the way. I tell you, if you got a red car and you got a white car and they bang into each other, you're going to get a little white paint on the red car, and you're going to get a little red paint on the white car. That's called communication. When you have this stream of information going through Mars, it's going to have an interaction with Mars. It's going to be changed by Mars, and it's going to come through your crystals, and it's going to leave off that information.
But this isn't a system. This is not a quick fix for everyone. It's not a fad. There's been people that treat it like a fad. It's not necessarily a lifestyle per se either. You do need to experiment because you're the empirical evidence of, okay, does this align? And it's either going to resonate or it doesn't. It's like, that's why, this is not something where we finger wag at people and it's like, that's your problem. That's
right.
This is this. No. Trust me, like it can get real easy to just turn into some religiosity if you wanted to.
I can imagine.
And get crazy and start condemning others with their human design. I ain't gonna lie, I kind of went like that with my mother or with people that I love. But then after a while, I just fell back. It's like, listen, it is what it is. If they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it. If they're not, they're not. But it is that's an overly simplified explanation of what human design is. It's a very logical system, and if it resonates, fantastic. If it doesn't, let it fly on by. You know what I mean? Like it's no different. But how about you? For you?
Oh man,
from your perspective.
I had been asking for something like this for decades. I have always known that as a 3-5, we could talk about our profiles, 3-5s later. But I always knew that there was something out there. I was wondering why don't we come with some sort of an instruction manual? You know what I mean? Like I was always obsessed. Like, how come I don't know myself better? It's actually in my design that I cannot see myself. That's really crazy. So I was on a search for something that I wasn't going to be able to find. But I was looking because I was trying to find out how I worked and the way that I worked the best. There are certain aspects to my design, and I'm not talking like aesthetically, but there are actual aspects inside my design that make it so that I have charisma or I attract people, or that people want to pay attention, or they want to hear me, or they want to look at me, or they want to understand me.
To help his design along.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Since he needs that interaction and that feedback to come to his truth from other people, and he's got to find people he has to trust. People are going to have to be drawn to him. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because if I'm just out there looking for explanation and nobody wanted to deal with me, that would make my life a little tougher.
You would.
Yeah. So, and that's another thing I can discuss. When you said logic, it also is synergistic. It all connects in together. It all connects in together and makes sense. So when she explained stuff to me, I got explained that I was a projector. Now listen. Okay. Being a projector is, I've seen a lot of people have a lot of different responses to what projectors are.
Okay.
Ultimately, it gave me the understanding and it explained to me a lot of the things that I've been through. It explained to me a lot of the suffering, explained to me a lot of the thought processes, It explained to me, and when it hit, it wasn't a belief system. It just, like she said, it was a mechanism. It was something that made me say, oh my God, I can see this now. It opened up my eyes to understand. Of course, initially, like I said, our generator, basically primarily generator conditioning. We're taught to be something we're not. Projectors kind of have that the worst, the way that I understand it. Mm-hmm. We are not generators. We are not meant to be out there working, chugging. We were meant for a different purpose. That specifically, I can speak for myself, and that's one of the best things about human design. I can actually speak for myself from my design. That gives me an understanding. I know me now, and I can speak from my design and have a confidence behind that. It's very powerful for that. So no, it's not a belief system. I don't have to tithe. I don't have to read scripture. I don't have to. But if there's something that I want to understand more about myself, if there's something I want to understand more about my wife, I can move into looking at different aspects of human design. There's a number of different, it's complex, but there's a number of different things inside different gates, you know.
Okay.
Channels,
different channels, lines, how we come together. If she has a gate and I have a gate and there's a channel between those gates, well, then we share that channel, together. We share that.
Okay.
We can investigate that channel. We can figure out the different components of that channel. I can understand when we're here, or I can understand when we're here. Mm-hmm. And we understand how to interact with each other. It literally, for me, being a mental projector, everything's up here. And it literally lends itself to me to say, how badly do you want to understand? How badly do you want to be understood? She said that there is a jargon, a vernacular. Like anything complex is going to have its own language that signifies the understandings and the meanings. If it's not, and the one thing that we haven't mentioned here, to me, it's science. Human design is science, and if you write it down, and it's an experiment, you are doing something, and you are trying something based on an understanding of rules and understanding that you come to it with. So when it's time to come to decisions, are you following your strategy and authority? When it's time to understand what's the best process for you, or which way to move, what direction to move in, are you following your strategy and authority?
Very simple, yeah.
Right.
Is it now, when you can make that muscle memory, that brings a certain level of like a shield or a bubble. When I take that out into the world, and I have confidence as myself, I know who I am and I know what works best for me, I take that out into the world. I am not supposed to jump into every situation and try to connect and help everybody I see. But if you knew me before human design, that is exactly what I found myself doing all the time.
Not living in accordance with it. Yeah.
Exactly. That I had this desire. It's like, okay, so these are things that I'm not, and I know I'm not. I haven't been able to find success doing these things. And this is the world has told me that as a man, I'm supposed to have success in these things, in these places. That's a difficulty for me, and I don't understand why. So I will cover for that with doing exactly what was the opposite of my strategy. I'm supposed to be invited as a projector. If I'm going to this, is it cool? Or is it a little too much right now? Maybe you say that.
Well, maybe you can address that with some of the questions.
Okay. So
I think it's good that you're doing it this way, and I'm gonna definitely ask you guys to come on and talk about individual, like to do your own segments of individual explanations of certain things that are coming up, like the jargon and the lingo, so that people better understand. But no, having the experience and being able to speak on it now, I think that's great. If you would like to go ahead and do that,
I can make it simple and easy. I'm supposed to have a specific strategy. If I pour myself into everyone that crosses my path, I will lose myself. Or based on their reactions, I will do something with reactions that other people don't. I will do something. I handle fear differently than other people do. I handle rejection differently than other people do. You understand what I'm
And
saying?
so do you, Janae.
Right.
And so do I.
Right. Everybody has their way of being. And that's I love it. It's the science of differentiation.
Right.
I can understand how I'm different. I can understand it. And I can understand what works best for me. And my strategy is beautiful for me as a person. Now that I know it and I understand it, no, I'm not going to jump into everything. No, I'm not going to help you. I need to understand what it is that is going to benefit me in doing that, because I've learned boundaries. There's a return on investment in terms of energy. I need to live off of the energy of my environment. I need to live off the energy. Generators don't need to do that. So I need to be very careful with how I work the energy that I have
as a projector.
A projector.
So,
and that's not a detriment. When you learn how to handle those reins, I'm an equestrian on this thing. I'm we hopping hurdles. Yeah. Like I work this. I know how to move it, and things have become like, oh my God, like infinitely more like efficient, understandable. I can work, like when I tell you, when you adapt and you learn and you make it, I'm still working on it, but when you make it muscle memory, that you don't hop into situations that are just terrible for you.
Right.
So that's self-sabotage, unknowing self-sabotage. A lot of that stuff you don't have to worry about anymore if you're following your strategy and authority.
So let me break that down.
Yeah, that's a perfect time.
Okay. So in human design, there's such a thing as strategy and authority for every aura type. So if you are, let's start with every single aura type.
Okay.
So for the generators. Let's start with the generators. Which are one of the most in the world. Generators, their strategy is to respond.
Human design teaches that there's another place inside of you, instead of your head, where you can make a decision. There's another place to make that decision. It's what I've been spending my life teaching people. I teach them, look, it's very simple. Stop trying to get an answer from your mind and get an answer from what's real. What's real is buried inside of this form that you have. See, we all have these different machines. They're bio machines, eh? And we have basically 4 kinds of bio machines. And here mostly we've got, the generator machine. The generator machine is buzz, 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 right? I mean, you know your generator friends. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As a matter of fact, if you're a projector on this side and you're down, you need a generator friend to go buzz, 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 because then you amplify the buzz. You get really cranked up. The danger is, of course, that you're riding on their energy. See? Everybody's got something going on. If you're a generator, your energy is everything. See, there's something that's connected to every type. It's called signature. And signature is basically the reward of having your trip together. Okay? So if you're a generator and you're an energy type, the most important thing for you in your life is what you do with your energy. What you do with your energy. It's more important than anything else. Now, as a generator, you're here to respond. That is, if you go chasing after anything as a generator, you will never enjoy what you get to. Never. It will never be satisfying. You will meet nothing but resistance as you go along the way, and you'll end up being frustrated, because that's what generators have most of the time. Adult generators are the most frustrated beings on earth, And they're frustrated because it's just not satisfying. Now look, the only way you're going to find something that's satisfying for you is that it's got to come to you. And it has to come to you, and you have to know that's right for you. It comes out of your authority. Generators are great at making sounds. Eh? You want to go out? That's a really good sound. And the whole thing to understand is that if what you're doing does not satisfy you, don't do it. And I don't care what it is. Don't do it. There's no point. There's no point. There's no point in doing things because you think you have to. There's no point in doing things because other people tell you that you should. They may be right. But for you, what matters is what's correct for you. See, look, if you're a generator and you don't get satisfaction out of what you're going to do, you begin to get problems, real problems. Because you keep on meeting resistance, you don't do well in the thing you're doing. It leads to a lowering of your self-respect. You no longer have a sense that, maybe this life isn't going to give me what I could get. Don't do that to yourself.
Respond to life. You don't have to go running and initiating. We've been taught in life that, Nike, just do it. Just go out there and initiate. And that's not for us, that's for manifestors. So generators, your strategy, no matter what your authority is, where you make decisions, your strategy is to always respond. And as generators, we're always responding to life all the time. Whether it's a child crying in the other room, whether it's a text, a call, an email, whether it's most of us respond to our bladder and our bowel movement. We're responding to life all the time. It doesn't mean we have to. Yeah, questions, exactly, or requests. I mean, we're always responding, even to just nature around us. It doesn't necessarily have to be people. It can be places and things. So it's futile for us to go trying to force and initiate like we've been conditioned to, because that's incorrect. And what ends up happening is it causes certain, what they call in human design, not self things, emotional things like frustration. Okay. So if you're frustrated as a generator, that's usually your body trying to self-correct. It's trying to tell you, hey, be patient. You might have tried to initiate something when you should have just wait to respond. Be patient, go sit down. Or you might be doing things out of alignment. You know what I mean? And there's an order to this, or you might, for us generators, we're typically at a healthy rate. And what we can deal with frustration for the most time with patience and realign ourselves to then wait and respond. So we respond. It doesn't mean to go sit around and do nothing with your life and just, I'm just supposed to wait here and just respond. No, it's just breaking down the mechanics. You know what I mean? Just the mechanics is to respond to life. Therefore, you don't have to kill yourself to go initiate. So you probably respond all the time. You know what I mean? To your children, your wife. Your man, your husband, or to requests to people, to emails, to messages, and so on and so forth. There's an abundance of things for us generators to respond to.
Tasks.
Yes.
Schedules.
Work.
To-do lists.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
And
doesn't that also mean that, because you brought up a great point. I'm so glad that you said this, because this is where I hear people get confused about generator life, so to speak. It's like, well, if I'm supposed to, people think responding, they take that to mean okay, nothing going. Like you said, it doesn't mean sit around and do nothing.
No one's telling me what to do. No.
Yeah.
No.
And they're like, okay, well, I won't do anything since no one said anything.
Yeah, we have what they call an enveloping aura. So our aura is always open to doing.
So we're drawing people in and experiences in, right?
Yeah, or we're responding to them. You know what I mean? We're responding to them. I'll be looking at him and he doesn't even see himself, and I see it. I'm gonna respond to what I'm looking at. I'm like, hey man.
She's always asking.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you okay?
Yeah. Good. Okay, because I don't know how to read body language all the time, so I just had to ask just to make sure.
Yes.
So that's the strategy and authority. The authority is where you make decisions. So whether as a generator, it's going to be either emotional authority or from the gut, your sacral, pure generator. Gotcha. Manifesting generator, same thing. Manifesting generator is a hybrid between the manifestor and the generator, where they have a connection straight from the throat center, where the manifesting and doing and communication and metabolism is in the throat center in human design, connected to the sacral. You know what I mean? The sacral is where work. The sacral center is where work, sex, and fertility is all at. So there's the battery pack in the sacral center. The throat center is the doing. This is where the doing is. That's where manifestors come from. So they're a hybrid of both. Their strategy is still to respond like generators. They still got to be patient. They got to make sure that they got to balance out. They got to make sure they're doing enough, more than us generators. So they have to balance their life because they're natural born multitaskers. Their authority is either going to be emotional or pure from the gut as well.
The aura. In the New Age, the term aura is something that, is used all the time. I see it in the newspapers. I see it constantly being associated with the impact of human beings. But so little about the aura is really understood. Most assume that the aura is an energy field that is given off by the form, rather than seeing that the aura is a full expression of and a controlling agent of the way in which the form is going to work. We do not have the same auras, as you will see. The first thing to understand about the nature of the aura is how big it is. What you get to see in human design, through the mechanics of human design, is that you get to see how easily you are conditioned by another human being when that human being enters into your aura. And think about the size of auras. If you stretch your arms out in either direction from your body, and you imagine that they could be twice as long as they are, and you formed a sphere all the way around you, this is fundamentally the extent of your aura. Now, aura does fluctuate, but it's also something to grasp about the nature of aura, is that it is not hindered by walls or floors or ceilings. The reality is that when you are standing in a room in an apartment complex and you have a common wall that you share with a neighbor, the fact is that as you stand beside that wall, your aura is penetrating into the other space. Not only is it penetrating into the other space, but obviously it can be deeply impacted and conditioned if somebody is in that other space and they are connected to your aura. It is one of the things about entering into this process of discovering yourself, is understanding how important it is to protect your aura, particularly when you're sleeping. You know, it is one of the deepest recommendations of human design when you enter into this process of the experiment of strategy and authority, that you sleep in your own space, that you protect your aura from conditioning. Now, auras are not the same. They're not the same at all. What we get to see in human design mechanics is we get to see that there are 4 types: manifestor, generator, projector, and reflector. Each of these types express themselves through their aura.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of You Don't Know Shit About Human Design, where we cover what is human design. Stay tuned for part 2 with Pele and Isaac from Keys to Locks as we continue the conversation. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and hit the notification bell so that you'll know when I post the new video. Peace, y'all.